And Gareth Davis, who is the National Audit Office head, says the COVID employment scheme support schemes were introduced at speed and provided essential support to individuals, businesses and the economy during the pandemic. Now, that key word, speed, we did have to roll these schemes out very quickly. And so, in a way, we kind of almost baked in, didn't we, that there would be some people misusing the schemes. And so nobody should be surprised, should they, at these numbers?
That's right. It was done at speed. We also know that the Treasury, when they were working on this, they were trying to look at sort of best practice, so comparing it to other countries and what kind of schemes they were introducing at the same time. So, and some of the analysis they were doing though was basically qualitative. So they were saying that if it were not for these schemes to be in place, then the personal financial situation of families around the country, of businesses and so on would be dire. I think that's correct. On the other hand, precisely because it was delivered at speed, the kind of usual qualitative assessment, real gauging for value for money and how well the schemes could be done, just couldn't be done in that same that kind of time period. That's not just the case for these kind of schemes. We do know that the Department of Health, for example, had numerous problems with procuring PPE, so personal protective equipment, over years. Again, that's not massively surprising because it was a seller's market. I mean, countries all over the world were trying to grab various bits of PPE for their frontline healthcare staff. That said, even though it was done very quickly, one would assume that as the passage of time went on, that more of these sort of fraudulent claims could be captured. We do know there are quite a few investigations. I think HMRC is now predicting that they're going to be able to recover just over £1 billion from sort of fraudulent claims and errors in the system. So that's obviously welcome. But yes, even though obviously there was a very, very short period of time space for this government and every government around the world to do this, it doesn't make it acceptable.
I mean, we're talking about the furlough scheme, but it is estimated that out of the £47 billion worth of bounce-back loans to businesses that were provided for the government, £4.9 billion is likely have gone to fraud. So that's more than 10%. I mean, now that we're experiencing a cost of living crisis and really dealing with the consequences of much of what was done during the pandemic, do you think that measures have been put in place and that actually we are taking seriously the consequences of the economic impact that we've were part and parcel of initiating?
Well, I think more needs to be done. It should have been done 2 years back, could still be done now. So one specific example would be to alter the 2006 Fraud Act, which basically means that if you're providing sort of false documents and false evidence in order to claim those CBILS loans, which is what businesses got, as well as the job retention scheme, then the threat of imprisonment should be much higher than it currently is. So, for example, it could go up to a 10-year prison sentence, which is what it is in the Fraud Act. So that's sort of one tangible change in law which the government could implement and then sort of retrospectively prosecute people if they've been found to play with the system. I think more broadly, though, across Whitehall, I think a lot more accountability needs to be happening. That's for the people who actually run the government departments, so senior civil servants, permanent secretaries. A lot of the time, life is in various government departments. They might be very competent in certain areas, devising policy and so forth, but not in this. So tangible changes, again, could be, for example, House of Commons Select Committees. They have much more role and much more say in terms of doing pre-appointment hearings. So we get a better understanding of, senior officials' abilities to actually cope with these kind of emergencies, which the country faced a couple of years back. But more broadly as well, the kind of people that we have running the government departments, who sit on the boards of government departments, that should be much more broadly based. You want, a real range of talents within that to do that, to try and stop this happening in the future. So, two tangible things, frankly, lock people up if they've been found to break the law, but then also try and get better people in government departments at the very top in the future.